Hi, thanks for clicking on the video. My name is Matt. Welcome back to Felstar DM. The other day I was part of a discussion over on the D&D Next subreddit about fighting styles. And like I said in my previous video, I wanted to kind of address questions and things that come up. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity to go ahead and make a video. Now, the question that came up was title, My Paladin Needs to Dual Wield. One of my players insisted on being a paladin and also dual wielding. I assume he'll want the two-weapon fighting as a fighting style. Is taking a level in fighter the only reasonable way to do this? So far, all my Google searches have shown this, but wanted to confirm there wasn't a more efficient way outside of multiclassing. Now, coincidentally, I am the top comment over on this one, but basically I said, you're the DM, let them pick it. It's not going to change anything. And I want to go ahead and kind of go through my logic why. So here we have the fighting styles. We'll go through them one by one, just talk about fighting styles, because realistically, when you talk about fighting styles in DnD5e, and the reason different classes get different fighting styles, right? The ranger, the fighter, the paladin, whatever, all get different fighting styles is a flavor decision by wizards. It's not a balancing decision. So the fighter has the list of like all the fighting styles. So I'm going to go ahead and look through these and we'll kind of talk about them, and then we'll also talk about the paladin fighting styles here, as well as the ones that were added in Tasha's, but we'll come to those later. So, hey, I'm editing this video just a couple minutes after recording it, and I realized, I forgot to mention the fact that we have a Discord. It is super small, but one of my goals for the creation of this channel was to create a Discord with people in it who wanted to come chat about things like this, or builds, or questions you have as a DM or player, because resources are either non-existent or difficult to find in the books we have. So there's a link down in the description for the Discord. Again, we're very new, only a few people in it, so come check it out and help me build it as a group. See ya. Fighting styles, basically they make a small adjustment to what you are able to do in combat with weapons. The first one the fighter gets is archery. These are listed alphabetically. The first one the fighter gets is archery, which means that you get a +2 bonus to attack rolls with ranged weapons. This is really designed so that the players that use the half cover rules of having someone in front of your target provides half cover being a +2 to AC and dex saves. But it's not really ever used that way because I can't think of a single table I've played at that actually uses that rule. But regardless, it's the same thing that a wizard would use a Wand of the War Mage for. What it's really used for is to make ranged weapons with the sharpshooter feat better, because instead of taking a -5 to your to-hit roll, you're going to take a -3 instead. That's about it for archery. Paladins can't smite on a ranged attack, understandably, so archery is kind of a non-starter for paladins. Next one is defense. +1 AC while you're wearing armor. Great. One of my favorite fighting styles just available, just free half shield. That's fantastic. Dueling. When you're wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. That is exclusively designed to make a longsword and a greatsword equal in average damage. So if we come over here to this and we put in a 1d8 for a longsword, and we put in a 2d6 for a greatsword, you'll notice that the average damage is off by 2.5. If we add a +2 from the dueling, they're going to basically be within, half a die of each other, or half a die pip. You can't have a half of a die, so it basically brings longswords in line with greatswords. That's what the dueling fighting style is designed to do. Great weapon fighting, you reroll 1s and 2s. It's okay on a greatsword or maul. I am hesitant to recommend it to anyone, and I'll talk about why later. Protection, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage. This is martial silvery barbs, kind of, in like a super niche situation. Again, I'll come back and talk about why this is not a great choice. And then two-weapon fighting. When you engage in two-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack, your ability modifier being your strength or dex. Ordinarily, when you participate in two-weapon fighting, you make your main hand weapon attacks, and you add your strength or dex to those damage rolls. When you attack with your offhand, which in 5e14 is a bonus action, you do not add that to your second attack. So, you would add, let's say you're doing, dual rapiers for whatever reason, or a rapier and a dagger because you don't have the feat. We're getting way too into it. It basically just makes it so that you are in line. And this is the fighting style in question here. The main argument here is that, well, you're going to give paladins a third attack for free, which means that they're going to get a third smite. And my response is, yeah, but they can already do that with Polearm Master. When you talk about Polearm Master, there is, some other benefits too, right? You are going to get the extra attack, of course, but you are also going to be able to get an attack of opportunity when someone comes into your reach. When we look at the dice for that, realistically, we are talking about 3d8 on a rapier or longsword or whatever versus 2d10 and then a d4. Again, we're assuming that you're going to have the same strength or dex when we're doing this just for ease of math. We're going to talk about the dice here. Coincidentally, they are exactly the same. 3d8 is exactly the same as 2d10 plus 1d4. So I don't think that, the argument that they're going to get so many attacks is really valid. They're giving up things like dueling and defense and all of that, where you can also apply Great Weapon Master to Polearm Master to get plus 10 on all of those hits. So I still think that's a better combo. And you get reach, which is offensive and defensive, but that's besides what. Paladins, they get a smaller section of that. If we look at the fighting styles that are added in Tasha's, we get blind fighting, so you get a 10-foot blind sight. Okay. Interception, it's just alternative protection. Realistically, you get a damage reduction instead of a disadvantage on the roll. Arguable on which one is better there, but functionally the same. Superior technique, I think, is potentially good, but for the most part, because you only ever get one of these superiority die, you get to use your fighting style once per short rest. That's tough. This is fine on a battle master, so they get an extra die and an extra maneuver, but again, we'll come back to that. Thrown weapon fighting style. Again, this is a pretty niche thing. This is if you're going to be throwing hand axes and daggers. It's a very build-specific kind of fighting style. Overall, unarmed fighting is fantastic. Monks don't get their martial arts to be a D8 until level 11. So a fighter that has unarmed fighting style punches harder than a monk from levels 1 to 10. That's a little bit ridiculous. And then the paladin gets the Blessed Warrior fighting style, where you get to pick 2 cleric cantrips. This is good on like a redemption paladin where you just want to pump charisma. I don't think it's really super useful on any other paladin subclass. There might be a couple like edge cases out there, but for the most part, I think that this works really well on a redemption paladin. So when we're going to talk about fighting styles, there's really 2 camps in my head. There are passive ones, or always active fighting styles, and then there are situational fighting styles. And what do I mean by that? Well, archery is an always on fighting style. As long as you're using a ranged weapon, you get this. Defense, always on. As long as you're in combat wearing armor, you get a bonus to your AC. Dueling, same thing. Now, great weapon fighting is a different thing because it requires a failure on your part. You have to roll a 1 or a 2, and you have to be using a weapon that benefits from that. So you're probably going to be using a greatsword or a maul because those are 2d6 weapons. Pretty sure a great axe is 1d12, so it doesn't really benefit from this. Well, that's not true. It does, but the more dice you roll, the better great weapon fighting is, because you get more chances to fail and reroll. Overall, people have done the math on this. It's not great. The fact that it requires a failure state to activate, right? If you're constantly rolling 3, 4, 5, and 6 on those greatsword dice, then you will literally never see your fighting style. And you could roll 1 and then roll another 1 and still have to use it. So I just think it's not great. Protection, this is, again, pretty niche. You have to be within 5 feet of another creature that's getting attacked, and then you get to apply disadvantage, which may or may not still hit, right? If you are fighting something and it goes to hit the squishy wizard that only has, whatever AC, and they roll at disadvantage, they could still hit. This is again, waste of your reaction and your fighting style at that point. And 2-weapon fighting is always on. It's a good one. Those, and I guess we can talk about the expanded ones too, because, Blind fighting, it's always on, but its usefulness is particularly niche. You have to be in a situation like a fog cloud or magical darkness or something like that where you can't see and you need the benefit of 10 feet of blind sight. Coincidentally, 10 feet is as far as you can reach with one of the polearms, so there's a little bit of synergy there, but again, it requires a specific situation to be useful. Interception, again, just like protection, it's a little bit better because it happens once they get hit and then you do a damage reduction instead of the opportunity for them to just get hit again. But, you know, you could roll something as low as 3, which at level 1 could be a lot, level 2 for a paladin, but the most you're getting is 6, 7, 10, 6, 16. Good math. Superior technique. Like I said, this is really good on a battle master. Maybe. Again, it gives you an extra superiority die and an extra maneuver. You know, if you're building a good battle master in general, this falls under, in my head, the same as a sorcerer taking metamagic adept for the additional sorcery points and metamagic. I understand the logic. I just don't know if it's the best choice. Thrown weapon fighting, again, this is an always-on thing for a very specific build, so it kind of lives in both camps. If you're building a throwing weapon character, it's a no-brainer. Unarmed fighting, again, this is nuts. It makes fighters pretty much better monks for a good chunk of the monk's career, from a damage point of view, right? Monks do other cool monk stuff, but this is nuts. Now, one thing I want to talk about is they said, you know, another option is to multiclass into fighter, but you could take the fighting initiate feat. I think it's in Tasha's, but basically it lets you pick a fighting style. Let me see if I have it in here. Fighting initiate. Yep, it is in Tasha's. So basically, for your feat, you can take a fighting style. And whenever you get an ASI, you can change that fighting style. It's not a bad feat, assuming that your paladin already has maxed out strength or dexterity and charisma and high constitution. I think that it's a big ask for a paladin to slot this in early in their career. So realistically, what we're talking about is, should you let your paladin have fighting styles that are not on their list? Well, in my opinion, yeah. Like I said, all the fighting style lists are flavor decisions. They are not balance or functional decisions. Besides Blessed Warrior and Druidic Warrior, those are like, I feel like you want to leave those on the Paladin and Ranger respectively. But for the most part, you know, if your Paladin wants to use 2 swords, let them. If you're going to require that they use the Fighting Initiate feat, well, then they're probably going to pick the defense fighting style for +1 AC, and they're probably, again, going to pick the dual wielder feat at some point for another +1 AC, which means that they also have a equivalent to a shield added to their AC. So they could easily be walking around with 20 AC without a shield, you know, once they get. But yeah, that's my take on it. So let me know what you guys think. Would you let your paladin player, as a DM, let your paladin player take the 2-weapon fighting style just because it's a flavor choice? Or would you require that they either multi-class into fighter or take the fighting initiate feat? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I want to know why. Because overall, like I said, it's a flavor decision to me. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.